Hello, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning. How are you? How's everyone doing?
Very
It's
good.
nice to be here again,
It's
as usual.
amazing to have you.
Yes. I was trying to share my slides just now, so
Yeah, I can
let
see
me.
your slides. Mastering Comprehension and Interpretation, GNS 102.
All right, lovely, 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 lovely. Okay. Yes. Welcome, beautiful people. As usual, it is I, Feyisayo, and I'm super glad to have you here today. Yes, Adidamala made a mistake with my surname. It is Odejide, not Olajide, Feyisayo Odejide. And like I said, I'm
My
happy.
apology.
It's okay. A lot of people make that mistake. Yeah, okay. So we're going to be talking about mastering comprehension and interpretation in the English language. Okay. Um, and we're going to unpack something that every learner, professional, students that they've wrestled with at some point or the other. And what is that? Is understanding what on earth a particular passage is trying to say. Okay. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you this. Um, think back to any passage or article that, or even text that has kind of made your brain go, wait, what? What's that? What are you trying to say? That's the most, confusing thing, ever. Now, what's the most confusing thing that you have ever read? It could be some kind of text, literature text, or a legal document, or an email, or even a WhatsApp message. Maybe your boss sent it to you at 2 a.m. in the morning, or whatever. Now just imagine that. Now you see that you're not alone. A lot of people have this challenge. I bet like all of us on this call have had that challenge at some point or the other. We've all been there, reading and rereading and wondering if the writer is trying to confuse us on purpose. Okay, now the good news is that there are rules, right? Yes, actual rules that can help, crack comprehension passages like, like it's some kind of code. So whether you're reading for an exam or a presentation, or you just want to communicate better, these rules will help you to understand faster. They'll help you to interpret more accurately and to score higher if it is within the context of an examination. So over the next 2 hours, we're going to master these rules together. So if comprehension has ever felt like a guessing game, to you, or yeah, that's about to end today. Okay, so you basically walk away with simple practical tools to help you handle even the trickiest passages with more clarity and more confidence. So let us go. Okay. Now, I call these the 6 golden rules. The 6 golden rules of comprehension, and they're like your personal toolkit, if I can say that, for cracking any comprehension passage, you know, academic texts, blogs, exam questions, basically. So we'll go through them one by one. First of all, I'll say what they mean, and then after that, we will then go in depth, and I'll explain them to you one after the other. Okay. So the first one is read the questions before the passage. I know your mind, you're thinking, wait, what? Questions first, why? Okay, here's why. When you read the questions first, right, you read with purpose. So you're not just drifting through the words, you're actually on a mission, right? So you think of it like a treasure hunt. The questions are your map. And now you know exactly what it is that you're looking for when you're reading. So yeah, that's what that reading first refers to. And then skim first and then read closely. So first you do a quick flyover, you just skim, and then you want to get the vibe. You want to know what the topic is, you want to know what the tone is, you want to know whether it's an argumentative tone, whether it's a descriptive tone, whether it's a narrative tone. Basically, that's what you're doing when you're skimming. Then after you skim, you go in for a closer read, okay? Like a second look. And that's where the details, will start to come alive, and all of that. So skimming basically gives you the map, and then close reading helps you navigate the terrain, okay? And then the third rule is underline the keywords in the passage, okay? So while you read, what you want to do is you want to be a detective. You want to mark clues. So you want to underline or highlight names, dates, emotions, or opinions, words that show contrast, like however, but, although, things like that. You want to also look for anything that is strongly descriptive or repeated. These are your evidence markers, okay? They'll guide you when you're answering questions, all right? Because some passages are packed with, fluff. And when you're doing this underlining of keywords, it helps you to filter the noise. Then rule number 4 is that you stick to what is in the text. All right. So say this with me. If it's not in the text, it's not in my answer. That's it. Simple as ABC. Now, this is where many people go wrong. They bring outside knowledge or personal opinions. But in comprehension, your only job is to work with what is on the page. So even if you know something else about the topic, forget it for now. Stay in the passage, okay? And then rule number 5 is refer back to locate the evidence, okay? Don't guess, don't assume, just go back and find proof. If the question says something like, what does the writer imply in paragraph 3, for example, okay? Then you scroll to paragraph 3. The answer is right there. Usually in a phrase or a sentence or something like that you missed the first time. So that's also very important. And then rule number 6, the golden rule number 6, is that you eliminate the wrong answers smartly. Eliminate the wrong answers smartly. So when in doubt, cross it out. See how that rhymes? When in doubt, cross it out. Now, this is test-taking strategy 101. Even if you don't know the right answer yet, you can often spot out what is definitely wrong, okay? So you want to eliminate possibly answers that are too broad or too narrow, answers that are off topic, answers that sound good but are not in the passage, and answers where there's information added that is not given in that passage. And this basically increases your chances of getting it right, especially in multiple choice. So basically, these are the 6 golden rules. And I bet that some of us already use these rules without even realizing that they're rules. So can you tell me in the chat box, which rules do you already use? Let me see. In the chat box, let me see. Which rules do you already use? And I'd like some answers ASAP. So I'm here waiting in the chat box before we then go in depth into each one. Can you tell me? Which ones do you already use? I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I am waiting. I am waiting. Okay. Richard says 6. Eliminate. Okay, that which is what most of us do. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Which of these do you already use? Okay. Bolariwa Teniola says 1, 3, and 5. Bolariwa Ibidola says 2. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for answering those questions. All right, let us go in depth into each one. All right. Why is my slide? Okay, beautiful. So the first one, right. Read the questions first before the passage. Why do we do this? Well, when you read the questions first, you're not just passively reading anymore. You're reading with intention, okay? You're not floating through the text, hoping that something might make sense. No, you're on a mission. It's like going into a room, knowing exactly what item you're searching for. Your brain becomes alert, focused, and sharp. And why does it matter that you do this? It matters because your brain starts filtering information as you read. You'll begin to recognize what's important, okay? And what's just fluff. So you're training your mind to become more strategic, not just more literate. Do you understand? So let me make it real, okay, with this example here. Now, the question says, why did Ngozi hesitate? Now, you already know that somewhere in the passage, Ngozi is going to pause, doubt, or hold back. So as you read, you're alert for emotional cues. Words like unsure, paused, glanced, nervously shifted in her seat. Basically, boom, you found it. So that's the power of reading with a question in mind, because you already know that something like that is going to come up in the passage. Okay, now let's try something. Think of it like walking into a supermarket, right? Now, if I say go and get bread, you head straight to the bakery section and look for bread. Okay, but if I say just walk around for 10 minutes and then grab what looks good, you waste time, you waste energy, and probably forget all about the bread. Now that's the difference this rule makes, right? Questions first, smart reader mode activated. Okay. Second rule, skim first and read closely. So what you want to do is you don't just dive headfirst into reading every single word. You start with a skim. Now here's the idea. Don't try to understand everything immediately. First, get the big picture, okay? What's going on? Who's involved? Where's this happening? What's the mood? Then you go back for a deeper and more focused read, okay? So how do you skim like a pro? You think of it as speed dating with the passage, okay? You just want to get a feel for it first. So you read the first and last sentence of each paragraph. Secondly, you look for repeated words, key names or topic phrases. Then you ignore the fine details for now. Now, once you've skimmed, you go in again, okay? And then this time, you're reading slowly, you're reading carefully, and with a pencil or highlighter in hand. So skimming is like watching the trailer of a film. Do you understand? It's telling you of the genre of the movie, the main characters, the vibe. And then close reading is when you sit down to actually watch the movie, the full movie. So you catch all the twists, the emotions, and the small, powerful details. It's like when I saw the trailer for To Kill a Monkey, right? I knew basically what the entire thing would be about, but I didn't know what the details of the movie would be. And I mean, that's what it was for everybody else. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is underline underline the keywords in the passage. Okay, now at this point, what you want to do is you want to move into detective mode. Okay, now once you're reading the passage closely, your job is to spot the gold and underline it. Spot the gold and underline it. Okay, now let's be honest, not every word in a passage matters equally. Some words carry weight, and those are the ones that you want to underline and or highlight. Okay, these words, they usually lead straight to the correct answers, and that's why it's important to do this. Okay, so you want to look out for names, okay, people, authors, characters, things like that. And then you want to look out for numbers or dates, years, quantities, time, references, things like that. Okay, you also want to look out for places, cities, countries, locations. You want to look out for those. Then you want to look out for emotions or opinions, especially feelings or shifts in tone. Okay. Then another thing is you want to look out for strong verbs or adjectives, like dashed or trembled or furious or brilliant, words like that. And contrast words, always contrast words like however, although, but, yet, despite, words like that. Now, these are hotspots, okay? The parts, the questions are usually built around, okay? So, for example, in this sentence here, Tunde's heart pounded as he walked into the interview. Which part would you underline? Tell me. Which part would you underline? Tell me which part you would underline. Tell me which, yeah, well, Bolariwa Ibidola says hearts. I would say more like heart pounded, which is why I highlighted it here, okay? But you're right, heart pounded, because what is the heart doing? It's doing something, okay? And that's a show of emotion. Thank you for that, Ibilola. Sorry, Bolariwa, okay? Yeah, so the expected thing to do at that point is to underline heart pounded. Now, the phrase, like I said, it shows emotion, probably nervousness or fear. So if a question later asks, oh, how did Tunde feel before the interview, you've already marked your answer. So, it's staring right at you and you're just able to pick the answer that you need, okay? So let's go to the next one. Okay. Golden rule number 4. Stick to what is in the text, right? It's a game changer, this particular one. And honestly, it's the one that most people mess up without realizing it. Okay. It's important to realize that you stick to what is in there and not what you think. Okay. Not what you've experienced, not even what makes sense to you, only what is written. Your brain is powerful and it wants to fill in gaps. But in comprehension, that's dangerous because you're not writing a story. What you're doing is that you're solving one. So if the passage didn't say it, don't say it in your answer, period. If the passage is about apples and you happen to know a thing about bananas, don't bring it in. If the passage says he was quiet in meetings, don't assume that he's shy or unqualified. It's just that he was quiet. So just report what the passage actually says or implies, nothing more. For example, if the passage says she disliked mornings, what does the passage tell us? I'm asking a question. What does the passage tell us? If the passage says she disliked mornings, what does the passage tell us? I'm waiting. What does the passage tell us? What does the passage tell us? Both Bolari Richard, right. She says she hates mornings. Yes, she does not like mornings. Lovely. That is what it says. Nothing more, nothing less. You don't start to assume that, oh, she's lazy or that she wakes up late. Do you understand? Or that she's unproductive. It didn't say that. So unless the passage says something, please don't bring it in. The passage simply said she dislikes mornings. Let's leave it at that. Okay? So repeat after me, even though I won't hear you say it, but say it to yourself. If it's not in the text, then it's not my answer. If it's not in the text, then it's not my answer. I promise you, this one rule will save you from most wrong answers, especially those tricky ones that sound right, but they are not text-based. Okay? And then golden rule number 5, refer back to locate the evidence. Now we're getting into real detective mode because you've skimmed, you've read carefully, you've underlined key clues. Now it's time to go back to your answers with proof. Okay? So you refer back to the passage to locate evidence. Don't rely on memory alone. Memory is great, but it can play tricks on you, especially if you're under pressure. Good comprehension is not about guessing. It's about evidence-based reading. So you're not just giving a good sounding answer. You're actually giving the right one, backed up by the text. So this is what separates a strong reader from a guessing reader. Do not let the pressure that you're under push you into just guessing or assuming. So let's say the question comes and it says, oh, how did the writer feel at the end of the journey? You don't answer based on how you think the writer might have felt or might feel. You go back to the passage. You look for emotional clues, maybe words like relieved or satisfied or exhausted or peaceful. That's your evidence. No feeling words, then look at what actions or tone suggests, okay? So think of it like a court in, a lawyer in court, right? You can't say, I just feel my client is innocent. You need to say things along the lines of, according to the camera footage at 3:15 p.m., blah, 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 blah. Okay? And the same applies to, line 4 of the paragraph, blah, 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 blah. That's how you win. Okay? That's how you win. So at the end of the day, if there's no evidence, there's no answer. Capiche? Then golden rule number 6. Eliminate wrong answers smartly. Now, this one right here is your secret weapon for multiple choice questions. Even if you're not 100% sure of the right answer, you can almost always get rid of the wrong ones, okay? Now, this is called the process of elimination, and it's a game changer. Do I have questions? Okay, yes. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for that. All right. Now, when you see the answer options, right, what you do is you cross out anything too broad, like answers that try to cover everything, even things the passage didn't mention. Secondly, you want to cut statements that are not supported by the text. So no proof, no pick, okay? And then beware of those answers that sound right. Just because it feels right doesn't mean it's text-based, okay? Because examiners are very smart, and this is how they trap you. They trap you by offering good sounding answers that have zero support in the passage. Now, if 2 answers seem correct, stop and ask, which one can I prove from the text? And that's your real answer. If you can point to a sentence, a phrase, or keyword in the passage that backs it, then you're golden. And if not, whew, out it goes. Okay? So think of it like a game show. You don't always know the correct answer immediately, but if you can eliminate, like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when they get you to eliminate 2 wrong answers, and then you have only 2 right answers left. Do you understand? So your odds basically go from 25% to 50%, and if you're sharp, 100%. Okay? Yeah. So basically, if you can't prove it, you can't choose it. Yeah. If you can't prove it, you can't choose it. If you can't prove it, you can't choose it. Okay. Okay, right. So what I want us to do now is I want us to apply the golden rules. Okay? I want us to apply we've talked the talk. Let us walk the walk. And so here's a short paragraph, right? And I want you to help me apply the golden rules. Now I'm going to read this out loud, and then I'm going to ask you in the chat room to help me apply the golden rules, okay? Now, Tunde stepped off the bus, his heart racing. The sky was darkening quickly, and he realized he had forgotten his umbrella. The market was still 5 streets away, and the storm clouds above promised no mercy. Now, let's apply the rules, the 6 golden rules, one after the other. Question 1 that I want you to imagine is, how does Kunle feel as he stepped off the bus? Now that you have that question, let's go back and read the paragraph. Remember, the question is, how does Tunde feel as he steps off the bus? Now, Tunde stepped off the bus, his heart racing. The sky was darkening quickly, and he realized he had forgotten his umbrella. The market was still 5 streets away, and the storm clouds above promised no mercy. Now, it's easy for you to answer the question because you already read the question first, and you could look for, the answer to that question in the text. Okay? So what did we look for? We looked for emotional or physical cues about Tunde's state of mind. Okay? Secondly, we skim the paragraph. So let's skim again. Okay, Tunde stepped off the bus, his heart racing. And then we go down to the last sentence that says, oh, the market was still 5 streets away, and the storm clouds above promised no mercy. Okay, now, if the question here, okay, before that, right? What is the big picture when we skim this paragraph, right? So the big picture is what? Today is caught in bad weather. I mean, just by reading the first and the last line, you can tell that, okay? And then a few things will jump out at you, especially because this is a short paragraph. So you can tell that he's heading to the markets, right? And then you can tell also that there's tension and there's urgency, okay? Now we're finished skimming. Let's go back and read again, okay? Tunde stepped off the bus, his heart racing. The sky was darkening quickly, and he realized that he had forgotten his umbrella. The market was still 5 streets away, and the storm clouds above promised no mercy. Now we've read it completely. I mean, I believe that without any shadow of doubt, it's clear in our minds what is going on here. So when questions are asked, we're able to answer them better. Now, what should we underline? What should we underline here? Because the third rule is to underline. So what should we underline here? I'm waiting for answers. What should we underline here? What are we to underline here? Remember, emotion, also perhaps problem, imagery / tone, and distance or delay or whatever it is. So based on the things I just said, based on emotion, based on problem, based on imagery or the tone, based on delay, what do we underline here? Bolariwa 1 and 2, Sheyi, Richard. Okay, so heart racing, lovely, darkening quickly, beautiful. Okay, any more? anymore. Bolariwa Ibidola. Richard, okay, and he realized that he had forgotten his umbrella. Yes, that's the problem. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that, Richard. Anyone else wants to give me an answer? Anyone else wants to give me an answer? Nobody else? What about the fact that storm clouds above promise no mercy? And what about the fact that he's 5 streets away? Those are also parts that you want to underline in situations like this, okay? Yeah. And then, based on this, can we say that Tunde is angry? Can we say he's lazy? Can we say that? I'm asking a question. Based on this paragraph, can we say that Tunde is angry? No, we can't say that he's angry or lazy because the paragraph didn't say it, right? Thank you, Richard. Thank you for that. Okay, what does the paragraph tell us? What does the paragraph tell us? I want answers, please. What does it tell us? What can you infer based on what the paragraph tells us also? How about that he's probably anxious? Because why else would his heart be racing, right? And that the weather is threatening because it actually says so. All of this that I just said, that Richard also responded to, is text-based. There are no assumptions required or needed, okay? So if a question then asks, what caused Tunde's anxiety? Where's the evidence? Where will you point out to in this paragraph? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Hello? Are we here? Are we together? I said that if the paragraph asks what caused Tunde's anxiety and where is the evidence, I want you to answer where the evidence of Tunde's anxiety is in the paragraph. Where's the evidence that Tunde was anxious? His heart racing. Lovely, lovely. Also, it would also be that what the sky was darkening quickly. Also, that he forgot his umbrella. Yes, thank you, Bolariwa. Yes, that he forgot his umbrella as well, and that the storm clouds promised no mercy. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, so this proves his anxious state. And we found this by doing what? By going straight back to the passage. Okay? All right, now let me ask. If a question says, why was Tunde nervous? And the options are 1, he was late for an interview. 2, he forgot his umbrella and the storm was coming. 3, he didn't want to go to the market. And 4, he saw someone suspicious on the bus. Which ones do we eliminate? A, he was late for an interview. Oh, sorry, just a minute. Just a minute, just a minute. Sorry, please, can I just have 1 minute? I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So I was saying, yes, I was asking which do we eliminate. Okay, lovely. A, C, and D. Yes. He was late for an interview. We eliminate that. C, he didn't want to go to the market. We eliminate that. And D, he saw someone suspicious on the bus. Beautiful, Bolariwa. Thank you for that. And the correct answer, like Richard says, yes, is that he forgot his umbrella. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're all participating. And basically, this is how you apply the 6 golden rules like a professional. You read with purpose, you highlight clues, you avoid traps, and you go back to your comprehension so that you are able to back your answers with evidence. And remember, it's not about reading more, it's about reading smart. Okay? It's about reading smart. It's not about reading more, it's about reading smart. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, I want to talk about something called interpretation. Interpretation. How do we understand meaning? That's what interpretation refers to. Now, did you know that every comprehension question is really asking you to think on 3 levels? So it's like putting on different glasses to look at the same passage in different ways. And so the first level of comprehension is to explain simply. Okay, now this is and okay, so there's the literal part, there's the inferential part, and then there's the evaluative part. Now the literal part is the surface level. Okay, basically you're asked, what does the text actually say? That's the literal part. So you can point directly to the answer in the text. Okay? And then secondly, it's the inferential, right? And this is you reading between the lines. Okay? You're reading between the lines because at this point, what you're asked here is what is suggested or what is implied. Okay. And the answer usually isn't stated directly, but it's hinted at. Okay. And then the evaluative, this is where you think critically. Okay. So you're asked, what do I think the writer is trying to do or say or even show? Okay. So at this point, and this level, you're connected to the text, right? You give judgment or an opinion, but still, in all of this, it has to be backed by clues from the passage. Okay. So, for instance, let's read this. Ngozi. Oh, did I just say Ngozi? Sorry. Ngozi had always hated speaking in public. But today, as she stood before the audience and felt a wave of calm confidence, she realized something had changed. Now let's look at this paragraph using our 3 levels of interpretation, okay? Who is the main character? Ngozi, right? So that's the literal question. Let's look at the inferential question, right? What has likely happened to Ngozi over time? So you want to think, Could it be that she used to fear public speaking, but now she feels confident, right? Something has shifted. Maybe she's practiced or grown more self-assured. At this point, this is what you're inferring, okay? It's what you're inferring. And then the evaluative aspects and the question that you need to be asking is, what does this passage say about personal growth? You know, so yes, you're now beginning to think, okay, people can change with time, with effort, or the right moment, as it were, okay? Fear can turn into strength, you know, things like that, right? The writer may want us to even feel hopeful or inspired. That's what you're evaluating at this point, and that's the answer to the evaluative question that you're asking, okay? So which of the three levels do you find the easiest? Which of the three levels do you find the easiest? Which of the three levels do you find the easiest? Which one challenges you the most? Which do you find the easiest, and which one challenges you the most? Answer. Is it literal? Is it inferential? Is it evaluative? Obviously, literal is the easiest. Thank you, Bolarinwa, for that. Of course, literal is the easiest. Anyways, next time you see a comprehension question, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, is this asking me what the text says? Is it asking me what it suggests, or is it asking me what I think about it? Because that's what literal, inferential, and evaluative means, okay? That one move alone can help you choose the right strategy to get the right answer. All right? All right? Now, who has ever seen a word and thought, what on earth does that mean? Anyone? I'm sure we all have. Now, you know that you don't always need a dictionary. Sometimes the sentence will give you all the clues you need if you know where to look. When I was a little child, I started reading novels when I was age 6. And a lot of the words meant, I couldn't understand what a lot of those big words meant. But just by reading the context, I was able to infer what they meant, because a 6-year-old child, I definitely didn't want to be carrying the dictionary with me every time I read a novel, you know? And so basically, sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, when you're reading and you come across a word that you don't understand, and perhaps you don't even want to go to the dictionary to look for it, or the dictionary is not accessible at that particular time, you probably just want to use the context to deduce what that word may mean, okay? So, yeah, I want us to learn how to figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words through using context, okay? I don't know why my slides are refusing to change. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Okay, so yeah. Now there are 4 types of context clues, okay? There are 4 types of context clues. The first one is definition clue. Now, sometimes the meaning is right there in the sentence, okay? For instance, photosynthesis is the process by which plants make food. And it's vital for life. Okay? photosynthesis, the process by which plants make food, is vital for life. Now, it could simply have said photosynthesis is vital for life without saying the process by which plants make food, okay? But it already explained what it means, so you don't even have to think, what could photosynthesis mean? That's for those of us who don't remember what it was and what we learned in elementary science in secondary school. Okay, now the sentence has defined the word directly. Okay, so you don't even need to think too far. But then we have synonym/antonym clue. Okay, now this one is using opposites basically to give you a clue as to what the word means. Okay, so you see a word like the actor was gregarious, unlike his shy co-star. Obviously, it means that gregarious is the opposite of shy. So it's shown you contrast, unlike. All right, so gregarious means someone who isn't shy, isn't it? Right. So that's what synonym/antonym clue would refer to. Okay. And then we have example clues. Okay. Example clues. Words like, sentence like celestial bodies such as the moon, stars, and planets, right? So you don't have to look for the word for what celestial studies and bodies mean anymore, because it's already shown you an example of what celestial bodies are. Okay. And then we have tone clues. Sentence structure or tone clues. Okay. The sentence, he trudged along the road, tired and soaked. His pace was sluggish. Now, even if you don't know the word sluggish, you can guess its meaning from the fact that he said, they said tired and soaked to mean that it also probably means slow. All right. So yeah, based on the mood and the surrounding words, you can guess what certain words mean. Okay? All right. Let's look at this. I'll read this out, and your job is to tell me in the chat room what you think the word means based on context. Okay? Now, after a long day, Ada slumped into the chair, utterly exhausted. After a long day, Ada slumped into the chair, utterly exhausted. What does the word slumped mean? What does the word slumped mean? Obviously, that word would mean what? Spell, okay. Maybe, but not quite. Anyone else? Anyone else? Slipped? No, not slipped. Read it again, okay? Let's read it again. After a long day, Ada slumped into the chair, utterly exhausted. Beautiful. Crashed is a good word. Collapsed or dropped heavily is another word that we can use for that. Okay. Now let's look at the second sentence. Okay. The child was elated, skipping and singing after hearing the news. Okay, your clues are skipping and singing after hearing the news. So what does elated mean? What does elated mean? What does elated mean? Extremely happy, lovely, joyful, excited. Yes, all right. And then the third one, yes, excited. What does the third one mean? The room was immaculate, not a single crumb or speck of dust in sight. Okay, so the clue here is not a single crumb or speck of dust. So what does immaculate mean? What does immaculate mean? What does immaculate mean? Sparkling clean, lovely, spotless, perfectly clean. Yes. All right. So I guess we understand what this means. Can we give ourselves a round of applause? A round of applause, a round of applause in the chat room. Let me see. We're all doing very well. I like it. Beautiful. A round of applause. Thank you. All right. Now, next time you see a word that you don't know, do not panic. Just pause, look around the words and ask, is this sentence helping me figure this out? Because context is powerful, okay? Let context do the work for you, all right? Let context do the work for you. Let context do the work for you, okay? Now, let's turn ourselves into literary detectives for a moment. When we read any passage, fiction, article, speech, even social media, we're picking up on three things, whether we realize it or not. So we're picking up on how the writer feels, that is the tone, how you feel while reading, that is the mood, and why the writer even wrote it in the first place, and that is the author's purpose, okay? So what you want to do is, you want to define with clarity how the writer feels, that is the tone. Is it angry? Is it playful? Is it sarcastic? Is it hopeful? Is it respectful or is it excited? All right. Basically, tone is talking about the writer's emotion. And then mood is talking about how does it make me feel when I'm reading? Okay. Do I feel tense? Do I feel relaxed? Do I feel emotional? Do I feel inspired or do I feel uneasy? Okay. And then we talk about the author's purpose. And this is the reason why the author is writing. All right. What is the reason why the author wrote whatever it is that they wrote? Is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is it to entertain? Is it to describe? Or is it to express his own or her own feelings or opinions? Okay? So I'm going to read out 3 short samples, okay? And your job is to guess, 2 things, the tone and the purpose. The tone and the purpose. The first one, are you seriously wearing that? You'll cause traffic jam with all the laughter. What is the tone? Sarcastic, right? What is the purpose? To entertain. Okay? Now, was that some kind of playful insult? Was it definitely sarcasm? Was it written for laughs? Right? Those are things that you want to be looking at before you can then ascertain what the tone is and what the purpose is. All right? And then the second one is the report outlines the effect of climate change on coastal cities. The report outlines the effects of climate change on coastal cities. The objective is the tone is objective and it is informative. That means that it was written to inform, all right? It was written to inform. At this point, if you notice, there's no emotion here. It's just facts. All right. And so this one was just written to inform and to educate. All right. And then the third one is buy green power today. Save money, save the planet. Buy green power today. Save money, save the planet. This tone is what? It's persuasive and urgent. And the purpose is to persuade. Because what? This sounds like a sales pitch. It's short, it's snappy, it's persuasive. The goal is to get you to take action. So whenever you're reading something, you need to ask yourself, how does the writer sound, their tone? How do I feel reading this? My mood, okay? And what's the writer trying to achieve? The purpose. So that's how you read between the lines and win at comprehension. All right? Now, there are strategies for answering comprehension questions. We've talked about how to read a passage. We've talked about how to spot clues and to even catch the writer's tone. Excuse me. Now the juicy part is answering the questions. What you want to do is you want to think of comprehension like it's a game. You've got to know what kind of question that you're dealing with. And you need to know the right strategy to answer and to win. Now, there are 5 common types of comprehension questions. We have the factual. What was directly stated? For example, where did Ngozi stand during the speech? That's a factual question, okay? And then you have vocabulary in context. That is, what does the word mean in context? So at that point, they're asking you a question like, what does elated mean in line 4? Okay, that's an example. And then you have inference. Okay, now what is the passage suggesting is what inference refers to. Okay, not particularly what was said verbatim, but what the passage was inferring or suggesting. So an example of that will be, why did the character pause before answering? Okay. And then there's the true or false questions. Yeah. Is this statement supported by the text? An example of that will be Ngozi was excited to speak, true or false. So, at that point you get a pick. One of my favorite ones, actually. And then the author's intent, okay? The author's intent. Why did the writer include this? For example, why did the author describe the setting as gloomy? Okay. Now, before answering any of these questions, you need to identify what the question type is, okay? Because it tells you what kind of brain power to use, right? Memory, context clues, or judgment. You need to figure that out before you answer any question, okay? Now, let me teach you a 3-step formula that works like magic for answering any short or long comprehension question. PEE refers to make a point. That's your direct answer. Give evidence, a quote or reference from the text, and explain. Explain how the evidence proves your point. So let's look at modal questions, for example. Okay, now question 1. Why was Ngozi calm in the crowd? So you go and you pick from the text, perhaps, because she had overcome her fear of speaking. That's point. The text says she felt a wave of calm confidence. That is evidence. Okay? And this shows that her fear had been replaced with assurance. That's an explanation. Okay? Now, see how clear that is? You're not just giving an answer, right? You're proving it with text and explaining why it fits. Okay? Now, what are our top 3 takeaways from today's class? I would say skim first, then read closely, and then let your questions guide your mission. That's the first one. Secondly, back your answers with text. No guesses, no assumptions, just quote or reference what is actually there. Okay? And then use strategies with confidence. So from scheming to tone to the PEE method, these tools work if you trust them. And so without further ado, I hope that I've been able to convince you and not confuse you today about what comprehension and interpretation means in the English language. Do I have any questions? Are there any questions for me? Are there any questions for me? Because we are done for today. So please ask me questions if you have any. And if you do not have any, I will share the slides and you'll be able to refer to them at a later date if perhaps you have any kind of confusion. Thank you very much for joining me in today's class. I hope it has been informative and educative for you. And till we see again next time, God bless you. Thank you very much for thanking me, Bolariwa Ibidola. And I'm done.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am. It was really nice having you with us. Please let's continue to appreciate her in the chat box. Please let's continue to appreciate our trainer in the chat box. Thank you so much, ma'am. The material will be shared on the Telegram group alongside the recording for this session. So please, let's all endeavor to go over it again and get through it. Thank you so much, everybody. And please, I hope we have all filled the attendance for today. If you have not, please, I just shared the link. Make sure to fill the attendance and see you all same time next month. First Friday of every month. That's where we'll meet with our trainer. Thank you so much, everybody.